Morning, folks. And yes, it is morning. It's about 1:30 my time, which is, of course, Eastern Standard. And yeah, I know, rocking the apple. I know. I didn't feel like taking it off. I don't care. What the heck. And plus, I feel like celebrating. And the reason being, if you guys don't know who I am by now, shame on you. This is Red, or for those of you who don't know me from before that, or for those who grew up with me, I'm going to be nice about it. My name is Harold Red Reddick, okay? AKA Shaka, AKA or sub moniker Black Magic. So you got all the stuff covered, the bases are covered. So if anybody's confused by this particular point, you shouldn't be anymore. Now, as for who I am, you got that covered. Now, for what you are seeing, this is the online blog known as The Other Side of the Ropes. And basically, you're talking about professional wrestling on the independent level from an independent wrestler's point of view, i.e., moi. Now, what's the deal? Okay, I was alluding to this for the past couple of weeks. Well, let's see. December 13th holds a lot of significance for a guy like me, especially. Let's see. This is going to sound a little bit sappy, but screw you. Here's the deal. I'd say about 23 years ago, on this date, a younger me, or should I say, me 13 days shy of turning 17 years old, was taking the ASVAB for the first time. For those of you who don't know what that is, I'll spell that one out. Armed Services Vocational, Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. Yeah, that's the thing you got to take to find out if you got enough brains to go into the military. That's the first time I took it. I had to take it again about, 2 years later, because I was about to go into active duty. Now, about 2 years later, December 13th, from 1988 to 1990, I was graduating from what they call advanced individual training, which in my case meant combat medic school in Fort Sam Houston, Texas. And I was about to turn 19 13 days later. About a couple of weeks later, I swore in. And after I turned my 19th birthday, I swore in again, went to active duty, and had to go down to Missouri to wait for my orders to go to Korea, which around 20 years around this time, I was what they was called a double-digit midget, meaning I had a couple of days short of rotating back to the States. Now, around this time, 7 years ago, was the birth of The Other Side of Ropes as a written column. Yeah, I know it took 3 minutes to go through that whole thing. Leave me alone. And yeah, I'm celebrating. I cut my usual rotation short or routine short. No, that's not true because I'm getting around this time. Yeah, I still made it. And instead of having my third round where I normally go with my watering hole, I brought it with me. So I'm knocking back, aptly put, some Russian River damnation, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it's a sexy bottle. And it's got a nice little kick to it. So cheers to you guys. Here you go. Haven't had that since summertime, and back then it was on tap. Just as good from the bottle. Anyway, I can actually recall my subject matter when I wrote and typed out, whatever you want to call it, and there was no rough notes, no rough draft or anything. I just shot from the hip like I still do. And of course, even back then, up until I got a laptop with a camcorder, I would drive myself bonkers every time I catch a doggone typo, even though I proofread it before I end up posting it. Well, to this day, I still have that problem on video. I might have an afterthought and forgot what the heck I was going to say, but by then, it's already been uploaded. Shit happens. But the subject matter back then was a thing I call, based on, since it was almost Christmas time, in tune with the festivities or the incoming festivities. Yes, Virginia, there is a kayfabe, in the tune of Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. Reason being, there was always been this huge debate. If anybody doesn't know what kayfabe is, okay, yeah, I'm going to put it out there, but it's nothing new. It's a code we live by. Or we used to live by, or we try to live by. We're still trying to hang on to it, kicking and screaming. And in our ranks, in our fraternity we call professional wrestling. And what it is, there's always this question, especially amongst the old timers, because when you start seeing little paradigm shifts, when you see changes inside the business, within the business, you wonder if there's a whole bunch of things going on. So, well, if you think about it, when I wrote that piece 7 years ago, I was at a time when I came from the school of thought where we defended the business. I'm getting like Chris Rock now. About a few years ago, yeah, wrestling is my passion. Love wrestling. Getting hard to defend it. A couple of years ago, or just before I started doing the whole thing with MMA, getting tired of defending it. Now, it's not really much to defend. It's just that much harder. And when you got people breaking in to what I've been doing for nearly a decade and a half, and they're basing it on what they see on television, and they think that's what's wrestling, we have a problem. Now, I stepped out of wrestling for a second. I mean, without really leaving wrestling, when I did the whole MMA thing. My motive for that, and people still wonder this to this day, was this: legitimacy, folks. What's missing in wrestling now is legitimacy. We are in very, very short supply of legitimate athletes, because the generation we grew up watching, they were legitimate athletes. And I understand the motive behind that. It was to back up the claims that wrestling was a sport. So you had guys that came in from other sports to reinforce it. Now, upon my discoveries recently, stepping out of MMA, and trust me, there is a lot of ignorance along both lines. And I may not cover it here, but I'm going to try anyway. But here's the thing, folks. Wrestling, I've said before, and say the scholastic level, that just deals in riding a guy to go for a pin. When you go into amateurs, same thing. But when you're doing Greco-Roman, those where you start seeing sick stuff like the saltos and all the crazy takedowns like the suplex and so on and so forth. Still same motive, going for the pin. And then you have submission grappling. This is pertaining to what you do once you get the guy on the ground and the pin is moot. You have to do more than get the pin. You'll get a score on a takedown, but you got to take the guy out with a submission. And there's a whole bunch of ways to hook submissions in. But what happened in our sport was a lot of guys who did compete, and unfortunately competition looked boring. A lot of guys who did compete, especially in the lost art for us, known as catch as catch can. That's where you get a lot of submissions and a lot of takedowns. These guys pretty much got phased out due to the greed of the promoters. They wanted to see the flashy stuff because they wanted to get the money. And sadly enough, a lot of guys went with it without really knowing any better. Because if they didn't eat. They didn't have a choice. But see, now, there isn't that much fear in a promoter now because they're not as savvy as they were several years ago. Neither are the wrestlers, unfortunately. So it's a double-edged sword, you know. So you don't have that much leverage going over your head. Now, still going into the whole tradition of what's going on, I'm sorry, let's face it. What we have here in professional wrestling and what makes it professional is we get paid. We've never really gotten a lot of money for it, depending on the level of exposure you're on, including that of the mainstream. But let's face it, let's call it for what it is. It's performance wrestling. We're like the guys doing a performance art somewhere out in the streets, and we're doing it for quarters. Sadly enough, that's the truth. Unless there's some changes to be made, you know. Now, the whole thing about kayfabe, I put it like this. If we had guys that did this more in the name of competition or preserving the name of competition, there wouldn't be the need for so many secrets. There wouldn't be the need for kayfabe. And I'm just seeing this now. A lot of people don't realize it because they're just going by what was conditioned in their minds and they never questioned it up until now. Now, all the stuff that I've done, was in the name of trying to stay legitimate, but unfortunately, there are a lot of people coming, a lot of upstarts, wrestlers, promoters that don't know any better, and they don't regard it. I mean, I don't name names, and I'm not the type of person to turn around and another term we use is stooge somebody out, because I'm a firm believer of if you got to sit up there and turn around and run somebody else down to make yourself look good, then you're no better than the person you're trying to run down. And me, there's a lot of beautiful people, a lot of great people I know that's been in this business, and I owe a lot to. And it may not necessarily be their fault. Who knows? But I'm not going to try to leave this on a bad note because, like I said, it's a celebration, and it really is. But I will say this. Next week, Johnny and Logan and I, we have Top Rope Radio, and we'll be interviewing another one of the members from out in the West. And we're going to do it up just before Christmas, but we're going to do it up nasty because we're going to be interviewing Big Nasty. And of course, that time on Top Rope Radio, it'll be 8 p.m. Pacific Standard and 11 p.m. Eastern Standard. In other words, over in my case, East Coast, 11 p.m. Out there in Vegas and the West Coast, it'll be 8 p.m. Stay tuned for that. It'll be me and Johnny Logan. We've got Big Nasty. And then around that next day, you've got me again for the next round. It'll be the first edition of The Other Side of Ropes going into the 8th year. That's right. So, and, you know, another couple more celebrations and everything else because it may look at it, but here's the funny thing. Yeah, another birthday coming upon me right after Christmas, but I'm not going to disclose that much after that. I'm just going to leave you guys guessing. But then again, hey, my birthday's on my profile on Facebook, so if you can't follow that one, then that just means you don't pay that much attention to detail, do you? Not my problem. But on that note, I'm going to wrap it up and get this hat off my head because I've had it on it all day with the exception of going to the gym. Go figure. It's still a workout in and of itself. How's my neck? Oh, see, no cracking. There you go. But on that note, I'm going to finish my Russian River Damnation. Like I said, it's such a sexy bottle, isn't it? Yeah, look at that. Complete with the trident and everything. Yeah, it's so good. Good stuff. Well, on that note, I'm going to wrap this up. Once again, I'm Red, a.k.a. Shaka, sub-moniker, Black Magic. I'm going to finish my damnation. And I'm going to watch some videos. Training, that is. Black Gold, Texas T. Oh, wait, wrong movie. But you guys get the idea. Like I said, I'll see you guys next week for another edition of The Other Side of Ropes. And on that note, you guys have a heck of a week. And just hang in there. And for the rest of my frat brothers and my sorors, yeah, that's the fancy way of saying the sorority. Yes, there's females in there, and there's a bunch of them. Mad shout-outs and mad love to all you. You know who you are. I may bring the shout-outs later on. Don't know when. I'm kind of enjoying this kind of thing, you know. But go figure. But like I said, you all know who you are around the world and they're abroad. And, of course, nearby. You're always close in my heart. And I'll see you guys next week. Peace. I'm out.